Dan, only in 2020 would we be now talking about a playoff berth for the same Bears team that 3 weeks ago needed to clean house. I'm Dionne Miller from ABC7. He's Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune. And here we are. I mean, for everything against the Packers. I'm excited. Are you excited? I'm jazzed.
I am. First of all, belated Merry Christmas to you. I know we didn't get together last week to do this, but I have to tell you that we spend so much time sort of doing this big picture look at the state of the Bears, big picture look at the future of the Bears, big picture look at 2021 and beyond. And I've made myself a promise this week that I'm just immersing myself in week 17 because it's so rare that we get a game of this magnitude, Bears-Packers at Soldier Field, with both teams having a lot to play for. The Bears need to win to get into the playoffs. The Packers need to win to get that first-round bye in the NFC. And so the Bears are going to get what they've wanted after this sort of late-season surge of progress, and that's the chance to take a swing at a quality opponent and see if they measure up. And if they do, the ultimate reward is getting into the playoffs on a 4-game winning streak with the potential of taking that momentum forward and playing another game against another good opponent. So I'm putting all that other big picture talk about who needs to stay, who needs to go off for at least 6 or 7 days and just immersing myself in the feeling, that jazzed up feeling. And you can already feel it from the players and coaches as well, that they are ready for this and that they want this test. And so let's do it,
Yeah, agreed, 1,000%. And I feel like having gone through that roller coaster that was that 6-game skid and the quarterback changing and all the drama that went into the last 16 weeks, I feel like that has prepared them for this. And even Mitch's demeanor, I know I will never say the benching was good for him or anybody because it was awful for all involved. But I do feel like his demeanor is so businesslike and he understands this is the last game I've got on my contract. This is all I'm guaranteed. And I just feel like he's going to come into this with a different mindset. I believe this is a different team than the one that played at Lambeau. They're playing with a different mentality, a different togetherness. And I truly believe it's because they've pulled themselves out of that 6-game skid.
I mean, look, Dionne, it's easy to just sort of root your feet down and stay stuck in place and say the Bears are no good and just be stubborn about that. If you've watched this team play over the last 5 weeks, you've seen obvious progress. Offensively, it's night and day from what we watched for a year and a half. And you cannot deny that. Whether you don't have the same adrenaline rush as a Bears fan that you normally have when they're in a playoff chase, doesn't matter because this team has made progress and they've shown obvious growth. And now they get the chance to measure up on it. To your point about Mitch, first of all, the idea that, Sunday against the Jaguars was his 50th start in a Bears uniform, which is hard to believe. It's 4 years have flown by. This next one, Sunday at Soldier Field against the Packers, could be the last time he puts on that Bears helmet. Could be the last time he puts on that Bears uniform. And so there's a very real emotion and potential finality to that has to do something to you if you're a player. That said, Mitch has been so good in this last stretch in December, and you're really even going back to the first game at Lambeau of just living in the now, being present, being in the moment. And that's very difficult for a quarterback at times. It's been very difficult for Mitch throughout his career. But the case in point for me, Dionne, is when he throws that absolutely atrocious interception in the end zone at the end of the first half in Jacksonville. And that's the type of mistake that in the past could have sent him into a funk for 2-3 drives, a quarter, 2-3 quarters, maybe into the next week at times. He came right back. They got a field goal right at the end of the half and then had 4 consecutive touchdown drives to open the second half. And so, look, you can't make those mistakes, but the ability to regroup in a very emphatic way was impressive to me on Sunday.
A third quarter juggernaut. That's what they turned into. They came out after halftime. And I'm like, what would that discussion have been like? Because when Mike Glennon tied it at 10, I'm thinking they're going to blow this. Like, this is a golden opportunity. And of course, I'm so overreactionary as we've learned this season. But I'm like, in that moment, I'm like, this is so classic. They're just going to blow it against the Jaguars and not even give themselves a chance against the Packers. And they didn't, too. Exactly what you said. Like, they looked so in rhythm, so in unison, so like all together. And I'm not just talking offense. I felt like all 3 phases looked that way. And I wish I could figure out where the defense kind of took that back seat. Because I don't know how we would feel if they had played up to their potential over the last 3-4 games, and we'd all be like, whoa, this team can do something. And now there's questions because of the defense, and we're still trying to figure out which I never thought we would be saying in week 17. I never thought we'd be at this point where we're questioning the defense. But I think that second half was the momentum they needed. I mean, even in the post game, you could hear it. It was like, okay, we saw what we saw, but here come the Packers. Like, now, how ready are you for this? And I mean, I feel like a broken record already, but they truly are. I think they are.
Think about if I told you in the bye week that we would get to week 17 with the playoffs on the line against the Packers, and we'd have a Bears offense that's scoring at will now, and a defense that we're going, I don't know if they can stand up to this challenge. And so every question that we have about the defense is going to be asked and answered Sunday against Aaron Rodgers, who, oh, by the way, is probably going to win another MVP award. And oh, by the way, on a snowy field, I mean, at Lambeau Field on Sunday night, threw 4 touchdown passes, including 3 to Devontae Adams, who the Bears are going to potentially have to try to cover with Kindle Vildor and Duke Shelley in their starting secondary. And so there's a challenge here, but it's a challenge that, I asked Matt Nagy on Monday, knowing his competitive wiring, knowing really the competitive wiring of this team as a whole, whether they were eager for the opportunity to play the division champion, the team that right now is at the top of the NFC. And there is no question that this group wants to take that swing, that they're eager to get in the batter's box. Now, whether they strike out, or are able to drive in a run or potentially put it over the fence remains to be seen. But it's not going to be because they don't have the mental fortitude to stand up on the stage, right? They're ready for the stage. They have the guys that can get on that stage. The question is, are you good enough to beat an opponent that is really, really good and playing really, really well?
And they've been hearing the criticism of this group throughout this season. And Nagy said, even when we were losing, the vibe inside was good. And this is where that culture, I think, plays a big role, because they are really in it together. And Mitch, he's been a leader of that, Dan. Like, even when he wasn't starting, his attitude, he's been a leader of that. I think you've seen that reflected with the other guys that are around the team. They respect the heck out of him. And I do too, based on what he's done and how he's handled all of this stuff, and proving right at the moment anyway that he is the right guy for the job for this particular moment. And then we'll see what happens.
Right, exactly. And that's why you stay in this 6-day period first and then get beyond it. But Mitch's leadership presence has been around since, his rookie season with the Bears. What we always said was it has to be matched by production for it to become sort of this thing that pulls and propels the entire team along. Well, now over the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's been accompanied by production. I mean, this Bears offense getting past 30 points in 4 consecutive games for the first time since the 60s. You and I aren't going to give away our ages here, but we weren't even alive in the 60s. So
we were not.
We've never seen something like this before. And so it has truly been impressive. And for those who want to just sort of discard bad opponent. I can't disagree with you. The Texans, the Vikings, and the Jaguars are all on side-by-side sleds going down that hill as fast as you can go down that hill in December. But that said, the Bears have played really well in those games. They dismantled the Texans and the Jaguars. These 3-game winning streak, they've outscored their opponents 110-51. And so, yes, it's been bad opponents, but you've dominated bad opponents. And so that needs to be acknowledged. And what it means long-term, again, we can get into that next week and in a week 18 that's going to either be full of excitement and enthusiasm for a playoff game, or it's going to be, boy, we're 8-8 and have to figure out what exactly this season was.
I know, 8-8 again. I mean, I really feel like I do agree that no matter what happens, and we heard the rumors over the weekend that they plan to keep Matt Nagy. He will continue to be the longest tenured coach in the city. Keep that in mind. But no, he will keep that they will keep him around, and I do think that they should. I say that with a question mark because of the way that he's brought this group together and kept them having fun, even when they were losing, and even when he was trying to figure things out. They believed in him. And I think that can go a really long way. I mean, I think that's valuable and important. And so I know we don't want to get too far beyond this moment, but I do think Nagy probably is breathing a little bit easier heading into this game than he would have if things had not gotten any better once they made all the changes with, the play calling and Mitch and all those things. I feel like he'd be sweating a little bit more than I think he is in this moment. Now, I don't know we know that Trubisky has no guarantees. So, and Pace either at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds either way they go. But I'm just like jazzed for them to have this test. And, Aaron Rodgers rarely makes mistakes, and he
Right.
loves to beat the Bears. I mean, he
Right.
loves it.
Right.
So,
Like
so it's
loves
going to
it.
be, he's going to just literally want to shine in this moment. And their defense isn't that great, but he is ridiculous. I mean, like there were a couple of drives on Sunday night, Dan, that I swear, like as soon as Tennessee scored, I looked down at my computer and looked back up, and Green Bay had taken the lead again. I mean, it was that fast. Like, how did that happen? It's
Right.
just
Right. And they're just in ultimate command. I think they had like
Yeah.
440 plus yards of offense on that snowy field, right? I mean, get out of
unreal.
here. Get out of
Yeah.
here. And I do like a lot of people will play that game on, is the rivalry more than just a game? And there's people say, oh, it's just another game. Rodgers is one of those guys that knows that it's more than just another game. And he has taken great pride over his career of being the guy that sort of keeps the Bears in their place and says, look,
Totally.
I'm still the king of this rivalry. And you saw that satisfaction on his face a month and a half ago in that game at Lambeau Field, where he was just like, hey, we just beat the Bears for the 100th time. And, we got to 100 wins in the rivalry faster than they did, despite being behind by 40 or whatever it was before Brett Favre came to town. And he knows that history, and he knows that what it means to the people in Wisconsin and the people in Illinois. And he takes great pride in having his fingerprints all over the rivalry. And that's what gives me even more juice, because he's going to be dialed in on this game Sunday. And it's going to take the Bears playing their absolute best game of the season to win. And that's what you want. That's what you want. That's what the Bears want. It's what you want as a football observer. And you just want this moment. The only thing that gives me a little emptiness inside is that there won't be fans in that stadium on Sunday. You know what that building is like for those big game atmospheres. And it would be absolutely electric inside there. Now I'll be up there in my warm, cozy press box seat in the corner at Soldier Field. And I'm excited to actually be present and not sitting in my living room trying to feel connected to the game. So that'll be good, but it'll be a little bit different to have a game of this stakes in a stadium where all the navy blue seats are folded shut and there's no noise. Right. And so, the Bear Raid siren will go off, and they'll try to recreate it as much as they can, but it won't be the same, but there's still enough to get juiced for.
I feel like it is. I mean, that you're exactly right. Like fans, it's based on social media anyway. Fans have certainly been embracing this moment as well and getting really excited. Somebody tweeted on Sunday that every time they watch the Chiefs, they feel like Kansas City is playing a different game than the Bears. And I always feel that way when I watch Aaron Rodgers, but I do have more confidence in the Bears offense, the way they've looked the last few weeks. Like you said, like scoring at will and not riding this roller coaster of emotions with Mitch anymore. Like he seems so steady. Even the post game on Sunday, like he barely cracked a smile. He was just
Well, and I appreciate it also because my colleague Brad Biggs and I both asked him about the interception, right? They just won 41-17, and it's like, Mitch, we got to shine the black light on that really bad decision and terrible throw into the end zone. And he took it like a champ. He explained his vision. Obviously said right away, I wish I had not done that. And going forward Sunday, you can't make that mistake and expect to get away with it, just as you can't make the mistake of having 1st and goal at the 18-inch line and running a end around to your tight end, right? Like, hey, Matt Nagy, Bill Lazor, anyone else involved in the play calling, don't do that. You've got a running back playing the best football of his career. You got an offensive line playing really well. You're going against the worst defense in the NFL. Just put it in David Montgomery's belly and celebrate the touchdown.
Yes.
Come with bells and whistles. And they settled for a field goal on that drive, despite having 1st and goal at the 18-inch line.
I know.
You're not going to get away with that against the Packers. So they have to play at their best, and you have to be ready to not make those kinds of mistakes. Or if you do, you better be ready to live with the consequences.
Right. And who knows what those might be, but I agree. And I believe Virginia will be there. I mean, right? She'll probably be there. She has to be.
If she drove to Lambeau,
she will be at Soldier Field. And I love that for her and for the fans, that she'll be able to be there, that she'll be able to watch this huge moment, because it does have franchise consequences. It does. And that it beyond just the postseason. And that is what I think jazzes me up, because we've talked so much about what's going to happen and which direction are they actually going in. They win this game, they have a direction. They have a different momentum than if they lose this. They're 8-8. They back. You don't want to back into the play. You just don't want to. And I don't think they're going to. I really believe this is their shot. This is their shot.
The idea of losing Sunday and then having the Rams beat the Cardinals and you still get in the back door despite being 8-8, it just,
no.
I don't know what this city will do with that. It's just kind of like, I don't know how to handle that.
I know it's lukewarm and it's just like, okay, so what? I don't think they're going to make some big grand Super Bowl run. I really don't. But after the season that they've had, getting in, playing well, maybe even winning. Can you imagine if they win a playoff game? Like,
right.
I know I'm getting way ahead of myself at this moment, but just from where they've been in the last month to where they are now, it has been huge, I think, for the fan base, for the team, even for the future. Like I'm excited. This is and you know what else I'm really excited about? It will be 2021.
Yeah,
so
right.
let's just leave every crap thing that has happened in 2020 behind us. It'll be a fresh start. If that's the first victory of the Bears' brand new year, I mean, no cheering in the press box, but I will cheer at home because that is good stuff for the franchise, for the team, for the fan base. I love it.
It'll be interesting to see where it goes. I'm a huge believer in experiences, and win or lose, just being in this experience gives the players that will be here long term the opportunity to grow from that and build on it. I hate to be a buzzkill at the end, and we won't go out on this note, but the most likely scenario here is that Aaron Rodgers beats them, right? And then all of a sudden you have 2 8-8 seasons bookended by home losses to the Packers, right? One in the opening of the 100th NFL season in week 1 of 2019, followed by a week 17 loss in 2020 / 2021, as you mentioned. And it would just be so devastating for the Bears to have these 2 seasons, which were supposed to be the start of this window, right? To pursue championships, finish right down in the middle, 500, 2 losses to the Packers, and you just be left hollow. But we're not going to end on that note because I don't want to bring everybody down here at the end. So let's get back to the juice that we're feeling for
well, that's what I was saying. It's like that's why I feel like win or lose, this has franchise consequences no matter what, because of what you just said. Because I know that they don't make all their decisions based on beating the Green Bay, but it's a huge thing. It matters a lot to the family, to the franchise. And so we'll see. We can't go out on that note. I refuse to believe that they are going to back in. I think they win. I think that the defense plays better than they have in weeks. And I think they win this game at home, and they control their own destiny into the postseason. They finish 9-7, and they exceed expectations that were there just a month ago.
It's only Tuesday, so I'm not ready to make my prediction, but I'm also not ready to say that you're crazy for picking them to win. And this is just a month and a half after they went to Lambeau Field and were losing 41-10, right? And so that tells you the advancements they've made. And again, boy, when I am in the car on Sunday afternoon, making that drive toward Lakeshore Drive and getting ready for this game, there will be that adrenaline surge. It will be real. And it doesn't come around all the time, as you and I know, right? We've covered this team long enough to know that there are a lot of December and January games where you're like, get me to the end of this thing and let me sort of tuck into my off-season hibernation as soon as possible. This isn't that. And so let's go, right? Let's make sure that our audience clicks that subscribe button, comes back with us for however long this ride goes into 2021 and beyond. And let's get ready to play this Week 17 game against the Packers.
I'm totally in. And I will be interested to know how many mini socially distant tailgates you pass driving into Soldier Field and that are waiting outside to just react to this huge game. Like you said, I do wish that fans could be there. But, I mean, safety first.
The last 3 home games, the parking deck, the Waldron deck on the south side of the stadium has had a drive-up Santa event going on. So that's been the extent of the energy outside the stadium. Otherwise, it's just that apocalyptic walk in to the building where you're like, what's going on here? We get to do it one more time.
This game is so big, Santa might even come back.
He may have never left. He may have just be sleeping.
He might be a fan for life. Who knows?
He might rock and roll. And so, yeah, let's go. Let's see what happens.
All right.